Every time your hands touch money, you're not just touching paper or metal, you're connecting with a current of energy that carries your beliefs about abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn said that what you bless, multiplies, and what you criticize, disappears. Most people handle money with tension, fear, or guilt, and that emotion sends a message to the universe saying there's not enough. But the truth is, money listens to emotion more than logic. It responds to the vibration you give it. The first 40 seconds matter most, so listen carefully. Every time you touch money, say to yourself with calm confidence, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. These are the words. Simple, powerful, ancient and vibration. Florence taught that money is not material, it's energy shaped by thought. When you hold a bill, don't think of what's missing, think of what's coming. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say quietly, I bless this money. It comes to me with love, and it multiplies in divine ways. Feel it, not as a phrase, but as truth. Your subconscious accepts whatever you repeat with feeling. That's why Florence used affirmations, to reprogram the mind from fear to faith. She said, poverty begins in the mind, and so does wealth. So the moment you think, I don't have enough, you plant the seed of scarcity. But when you think, I always have more than enough, you open the door for abundance to enter. Florence believed that gratitude was the language of prosperity. When you pay a bill, instead of sighing, say thank you. Thank you that I had the means to pay. Thank you that money flows through me easily and returns multiplied. Gratitude transforms fear into faith, and faith creates miracles. She wrote, the invisible forces of supply are always around you, waiting for your command. Your words are that command. That's why this simple phrase has power. Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. Repeat it every time you handle cash, every time you check your bank account, every time you send or receive money. Each repetition tells the universe, I am ready to circulate abundance. Money is not a reward or punishment, it's a reflection of your inner state. If you fear it, it leaves. If you bless it, it grows. Florence often said, what you resist persists, and what you bless expands. That's why she called money divine substance. It's not evil, not good, just energy that takes the shape of your belief. When you stop fighting it and start appreciating it, it starts loving you back. She encouraged people to treat every coin, every bill, every transaction with respect, as if it were sacred. Because to her, it was. It symbolized the law of circulation, give and receive, breathe in and out, flow and return. When you say, money comes to me easily and frequently, you are aligning yourself with that flow. You're telling life that you trust it. And life, when trusted, always delivers. Florence told her students to watch their words. Never say, I can't afford it. Instead say, it's not yet in my vibration, but it's coming. Words define your frequency. The more loving and confident your words about money are, the faster abundance appears. So, the next time you pay for something, whisper, there's more where that came from. That phrase, simple as it sounds, carries the energy of infinite supply. Florence reminded that the universe cannot fill a closed hand. Let go of your grip, your fear, your control, and money will begin to circulate again. You'll see unexpected opportunities, small miracles, new sources of income, because life mirrors the energy of openness. When you bless what you have, you make room for more. That's why she said, never criticize money, bless it when it comes, bless it when it goes. Each blessing becomes a magnetic call for its return. The truth is, money was never the issue. Belief was. Change the belief, and the flow changes. Start today. Whenever you touch a coin, a note, a card, even your phone while making a digital payment, pause for 1 second and affirm, I am one with infinite supply, money flows to me in perfect harmony. Say it like a fact, not a hope. Because that's what Florence Scovel Shinn taught, that faith spoken becomes form. And as you keep speaking these words, you'll notice something subtle shifting. You'll stop chasing money and start magnetizing it. The worry begins to fade, replaced by calm confidence. That's when you'll realize that you've never lacked anything, you only needed to align. Florence believed that abundance is not something you earn, it's something you allow. So every time you touch money, remember her teaching, bless it, speak to it, honor it, and it will multiply. Every time your hands touch money, you are touching energy, not paper. You are connecting to a current that listens to your beliefs, your emotions, and your words. Florence Scovel Shinn said that money, like every force in life, responds to vibration. It obeys faith, not fear. Most people handle money with tension, they count it with anxiety, spend it with guilt, and hold it with doubt. They don't realize that these emotions create a barrier between them and abundance. But when you bless money, when you touch it with gratitude and confidence, you turn it into a magnet of prosperity. This is what Florence called the law of non-resistance. What you bless, multiplies. What you fear, fades. What you criticize, escapes. In these first moments, I want you to imagine yourself holding a bill in your hand. Feel its texture, its weight, its energy. Now say quietly in your mind, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. These are the words. And I want you to remember them. Florence believed that when you repeat a phrase with faith, it becomes a command to the universe. Words are creative forces, they mold invisible substance into visible form. She used to say that the spoken word is the strongest vibration we can release, and when it's filled with gratitude and trust, it rearranges conditions in our favor. So, when you pay a bill, when you receive your salary, or even when you find a coin on the ground, use that moment to align yourself with wealth consciousness. Say thank you. Thank you that I am part of the endless flow of money. Thank you that everything I give returns multiplied. Gratitude is the language of abundance, and when you speak it, life listens. Florence explained that money has no personality, it's neither good nor evil. It only takes the shape of your inner beliefs. If you think of money as something hard to get, it will hide. If you think of it as a natural, joyful flow, it will seek you. The key is emotional tone. You must feel wealthy inside before you can see wealth outside. She used to say that people try to manifest from the outside in, but creation happens from the inside out. Change your thoughts, change your words, change your vibration, and the world adjusts. The subconscious mind doesn't argue, it obeys whatever you affirm with conviction. So, if you often say, I never have enough, the subconscious records it as an order. But if you start saying, money comes to me easily and frequently, it begins to rearrange your circumstances to match that statement. Florence called this process the law of substitution, replacing every thought of lack with a thought of supply. She believed that the universe hates a vacuum, and when you empty your mind of fear, it rushes to fill it with abundance. When you start blessing your money, you build a bridge between the spiritual and the material. You stop seeing money as something outside yourself and start seeing it as an extension of divine energy. Florence said, there is no lack of anything on God's side. Which means, the moment you align with that side, everything flows. You become the open channel through which abundance circulates. She taught her students to treat every coin, every bill, every transaction as sacred, because it represented the flow of life itself. When you receive, receive with joy. When you give, give with faith. Say to yourself, this money blesses everyone it touches, and it returns to me multiplied. That sentence contains a secret: circulation. Money is meant to move. It's like blood in the body, it must flow to stay alive. When you hoard in fear, you block the current. When you give with trust, you keep it alive. Florence said that stinginess is the shadow of fear, and fear is the belief that supply can end. But divine supply is infinite. It never runs out, it only responds to openness. That's why she encouraged people to act as if they were already rich in spirit. Buy with joy, share with generosity, and you will discover that the more you give, the more you receive. She also taught that you can purify your relationship with money through words. The phrases you speak become seeds in the soil of your subconscious. So choose your words as carefully as you'd choose seeds for a garden. Instead of saying, I can't afford this, say, it's not in my vibration yet, but it's coming. Instead of saying, money doesn't stay with me, say, money loves me and enjoys staying in my life. Each phrase rewrites the code that shapes your financial reality. Florence warned that people destroy their prosperity through idle speech, complaining, doubting, joking about being broke, without realizing that their words carry authority. The moment you joke about lack, you invite it. The moment you affirm abundance, you attract it. She said, words are the keys to the kingdom, and the kingdom she referred to was not a place but a state of consciousness, the awareness that you are one with infinite supply. When you touch money, you are touching that divine flow and form. So bless it. Whisper, I am one with the source of all wealth. Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. Say it before you spend, when you receive, when you see money, even when you think of it. The repetition engraves new patterns in your subconscious, and soon, the outer world begins to match your new belief. You start noticing synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, financial surprises, help arriving in perfect timing. That's not coincidence, that's resonance. You've tuned your frequency to abundance. Florence said that miracles are natural when we stop resisting. The resistance is not outside, it's within: fear, guilt, shame, doubt. Once you let those go and replace them with gratitude and faith, life rearranges itself. That's why she repeated again and again, you do not need to fight for prosperity, you only need to align with it. The universe is already abundant, you just need to open the door through your vibration. Each time you touch money, imagine it glowing with golden light. Visualize it multiplying, circulating, returning. See yourself surrounded by ease, by flow, by generosity. Because that image will train your subconscious to expect abundance as normal. And what you expect, you attract. Florence Scovel Shinn's wisdom is simple but profound. Your relationship with money is a mirror of your relationship with life. If you distrust it, life closes. If you bless it, life opens. So, begin today. Each time you touch money, speak with love, act with faith, and feel rich within. Say with calm assurance, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. Let this be your ritual, your declaration, your vibration. Because when you bless money, it blesses you back, and when you live from that truth, wealth is no longer something you chase, but something you naturally attract. Every time your fingers touch money, you are not just touching paper or metal, you are touching a current of living energy that mirrors your inner beliefs about abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that everything in life vibrates with meaning, and money is one of the clearest reflections of your emotional state. When you hold it with gratitude, it grows. When you fear it, it slips away. Most people, without realizing, push abundance away because of how they think and speak about money. They sigh when paying a bill, they complain about prices, they say, "I can't afford it," and those words become self-fulfilling prophecies. But Florence said that words are creative commands. Each phrase you speak plants a seed in the subconscious mind, and that mind has no sense of humor, it simply obeys. That's why she insisted that if you bless money, it must multiply. If you bless your income, it must increase. If you speak of prosperity, you must attract it. The universe works through law, and the law of prosperity is as exact as gravity. It gives back in the measure of your vibration. So from now on, whenever you touch money, whether it's cash, a card, or a digital transfer, I want you to say the words she gave her students: every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. These words are your key. Do not rush them. Feel them. Let them become truth in your energy. Florence said that money is divine substance, neutral and pure, shaped only by thought. She wrote, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving." So, when you imagine yourself surrounded by lack, you attract lack. But when you visualize yourself as a channel of infinite supply, you awaken the law of increase. The first 40 seconds of hearing this truth are crucial, because this is when your subconscious decides whether to resist or receive. Don't let it resist. Let the words sink in. You are not chasing wealth, you are aligning with it. You are not forcing abundance, you are allowing it. Florence used to teach her students that the words "I am open to receive" have magnetic power. She said, "You can only receive what your words prepare the way for." That's why the phrase "every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied" is more than an affirmation, it's an activation. It turns a normal transaction into a spiritual ritual. When you pay for something, instead of feeling that money is leaving you, say, "I send this money out with love, and it returns to me multiplied." You will notice how different that feels. That single shift in emotion changes your vibration. The universe responds not to your need but to your energy. Florence reminded people that money is a servant, not a master. It takes orders from your consciousness. If your consciousness is fearful, it will serve fear. If it's faithful, it will serve faith. She believed that wealth was a reflection of trust, trust in divine supply, trust in the invisible current that never runs dry. She often said that God's channels are countless and that no one is your source except the infinite mind. When you realize that, you stop depending on outer circumstances and start depending on inner alignment. Florence called this living by spiritual law, not by appearance. To her, appearances were deceptive, they only showed the past reflection of your thoughts. The real power lay in your words today. That's why she warned against phrases like "I'm broke" or "money never stays with me." Those sentences close the flow. Instead, she told her students to affirm, "I always have more than enough, and all that is mine by divine right now appears." She used the phrase divine right often because she wanted people to understand that abundance was not greed, it was harmony. It was the natural state of being when the mind and heart were aligned with truth. And that truth was simple: lack is an illusion. The only thing that is real is supply. Every blade of grass, every breath of air, every drop of rain is proof that the universe is abundant beyond measure. You were never meant to struggle for money, you were meant to circulate it joyfully. Florence believed that each transaction is a conversation between you and the universe. When you pay with fear, the universe hears fear. When you pay with faith, it hears gratitude. That's why she instructed her students to thank money as it came and as it went. She wrote, "Never let money leave your hands without blessing it, for blessing is multiplication." Try it now. Imagine paying a bill and saying in your heart, "Thank you for the service this provides, thank you that more money is already on its way to me." That small act turns fear into flow. Gratitude is the magnet of miracles. Florence also taught that the words you speak must be backed by feeling. Empty words have no life, but words spoken with conviction move mountains. So, when you say, "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied," say it with joy, with certainty, as if you were describing something that's already happening. Feel the truth vibrating through your hands. That's how the subconscious accepts it. She compared this to planting seeds. You don't dig them up every hour to check if they're growing. You plant them, water them with faith, and trust that the roots are forming unseen. That's how affirmations work, silent at first, then powerful in results. Soon, you'll begin to notice changes, unexpected gifts, new opportunities, increased flow. That's the law of multiplication answering your vibration. Florence said, "Your word is your wand, and this wand creates your financial reality. Use it wisely. Speak only what you wish to experience. Never speak lack, even in jest. The moment you joke about being poor, you reinforce the pattern. But when you bless what you have, no matter how small, it grows." She encouraged her students to bless their purse, bless their bank account, bless every source of income. Say, "This is divine substance in action. I am grateful for its endless increase." These words clear the energy of fear and open the gate for prosperity. You'll find yourself less anxious, more trusting, more open to receive. Florence taught that prosperity was not just material, it was peace of mind, balance, harmony, and joy. When you live with that vibration, money becomes your companion, not your worry. She wanted people to see money as spiritual, as proof that the invisible becomes visible. When your inner state is aligned, outer conditions rearrange themselves. The same law that moves the planets moves your prosperity. All it needs is your cooperation. And your cooperation begins with the words you speak every time you touch money. Say it again now in your heart: "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied." Keep repeating it until it becomes automatic, until it becomes truth. Florence used to say, "You must act as if you have already received, and it will be so." So from now on, act rich in spirit. Walk as someone who knows that supply is infinite. When you bless money, you align with divine law, and divine law never fails. Every blessing you give returns to you multiplied. Every thank you spoken creates another door for abundance to enter. This is how the energy of money becomes your ally, your reflection, your friend. Bless it, love it, and it will never leave you. Every time you touch money, you are sending a signal to the universe, declaring what you believe about abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn said that life responds to the vibration of your words and feelings more than your actions. Most people touch money and think about what they lack, what they owe, or what they fear losing, and that energy becomes a silent order to the universe to keep them in scarcity. But if you learn to touch money with love, with respect, with gratitude, the flow begins to change. She used to remind her students that what you bless, blesses you back. So, every time you handle money, remember to say the words, "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied." Say it when you receive, when you pay, when you count, when you give. These are the words. They carry frequency, and the frequency becomes form. Florence taught that money was not a test of luck but of consciousness. When you believe you are one with the source of wealth, everything begins to align. The first 40 seconds you spend with money are critical. In that brief moment, your subconscious absorbs the feeling you project. If you look at your wallet and feel worry, that vibration expands. But if you hold it and think, "Thank you, there's more where this came from," that vibration expands instead. The mind doesn't distinguish between $1 or $1,000,000, it only mirrors emotion. Florence explained that prosperity is not created through struggle but through faith. She said, "You can only receive what you see yourself receiving." So if you see yourself as constantly short, constantly behind, the world will echo that belief. But if you see yourself as a magnet for divine supply, life begins to confirm it. She taught that everything you give returns multiplied, because the universe never subtracts, it circulates. That's why she told her students to give with joy and never with fear. When you release money with gratitude, it travels the world and finds its way back to you enriched. That's the law of circulation, the same law that governs the tides, the breath, the heartbeat of creation. Florence believed that resistance to money was resistance to life itself. People who fear money often fear power, responsibility, or worthiness. They unconsciously push prosperity away by believing they don't deserve it. She said that to receive freely, you must first forgive yourself for every past mistake about money. Let go of guilt, of shame, of regret. Money is not a moral issue, it is energy in motion. When you forgive the past, the energy becomes clean, and new opportunities flow. She wrote, "No man can receive what he denies himself." So, when you say "I can't afford it," you are denying the universe the chance to provide. But when you say, "It's not in my vibration yet, but it's on its way," you create space for miracles. Florence's lessons were not about greed, they were about trust. She wanted people to replace worry with certainty, because certainty is magnetic. When you know that supply is infinite, you stop chasing it. You begin to attract it naturally. You move differently, think differently, act differently. You become the person who expects good, and expectation is the seed of manifestation. She explained that your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. Whatever words you plant will grow, regardless of whether they are weeds or flowers. So, choose carefully what you say about money. Never joke about being broke. Never claim poverty, even in humor. Those words carry vibration, and the subconscious takes them literally. Instead, affirm that everything you give returns multiplied. Say, "I always have more than enough. My income increases constantly in perfect ways." Florence believed that when you bless your bills, your wallet, your home, you turn them into spiritual magnets. She would tell people to look at their bills and say, "I thank the universe that these are paid easily and joyfully." This simple act changes everything, because gratitude transforms fear into flow. When you pay from a grateful heart, you stay in alignment with abundance. She often used the phrase, divine order, meaning that everything unfolds perfectly when you trust the process. Money comes through channels both seen and unseen, and sometimes it arrives in forms beyond logic: a gift, a discount, a new opportunity, a sudden inspiration. That's divine order responding to faith. Florence wrote, God's supply is endless and immediate. Immediate, not someday. Which means that the moment you align your words and feelings with prosperity, life begins to rearrange. You may not see the results at once, but the law has already been set in motion. That's why she said that people fail not because the law doesn't work, but because they stop believing too soon. Faith must be sustained until the manifestation appears. She taught that the universe is like a mirror, it reflects what you are, not what you want. If you want abundance but feel lack, the reflection remains lack. But when you feel abundant even before seeing proof, the reflection changes. The affirmation, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied, is designed to create that inner shift. The more you repeat it with conviction, the more your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. Florence said, when the subconscious accepts an idea, it begins to act upon it. That means people, circumstances, and events start moving in your favor without conscious effort. The invisible responds to your invisible. She believed that every man and woman has a divine right to be prosperous, healthy, and free. Lack is not spiritual, fear is not holy. The most spiritual act, she said, is to live fully and express gratitude for every form of supply. So from this moment, make a new agreement with yourself. Promise that you will never touch money again without blessing it. See it as energy, as light, as proof that the universe flows through you. When you pay for something, smile and think, I bless this money, and it blesses all it touches. When you receive, say, thank you, this is divine abundance returning multiplied. Do this consistently and watch your vibration shift. The outer world always follows the inner. Soon you will notice unexpected inflows, creative ideas, generosity coming your way. These are signs that the law of increase is working. Florence Scovel Shinn's wisdom still echoes today because it speaks to the truth that prosperity begins in thought. Money is not the cause of wealth, consciousness is. Every word you speak is a design for your future, and the more those words align with gratitude and abundance, the richer your life becomes. So, as you listen to these words, remember, you hold the power to multiply everything you touch. Every time you handle money, speak to it with kindness, feel appreciation, and say with certainty, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. These words are not a wish, they are a command to the universe, and the universe always obeys. Every time your fingers touch money, remember that you are not just handling currency, you are interacting with the energy of abundance itself. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that money is a symbol of the divine flow of life, and that what you feel in those moments determines how it circulates in your world. Most people don't realize that their emotions toward money shape their entire financial experience. They sigh when spending, they tighten their chest when paying bills, they whisper phrases like I can't afford this or I never have enough, and those words become invisible chains that tie them to limitation. Florence said that words are not just sounds, they are forces that command energy. So she instructed her students to consciously speak words of blessing over everything that represents supply. Because what you bless, multiplies. She said that money is like water, it should flow, it should move, it should be blessed every time it enters or leaves your hands. The moment you hold it, even for a second, you have the power to either contract or expand that flow. So, when you touch money, instead of thinking of what you owe, think of what you are allowing. Instead of fear, feel gratitude. Gratitude is magnetic, it opens the gate through which prosperity enters. Florence said, no man can attract money if he despises it. To her, the attitude of respect toward money was an act of spiritual maturity. It wasn't worship, it was recognition that divine energy moves through all forms, including this one. She taught her students a simple but potent ritual. Every time you touch money, say these words, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. Those are the words. When spoken with faith, they alter your vibration immediately. She explained that the subconscious mind is impressionable, and that each repetition of truth plants a seed in its soil. If you speak fear, you grow fear. If you speak abundance, you grow abundance. It's a law, as reliable as gravity. Florence often said that you cannot receive more until you learn to bless what you already have. She believed that people repel prosperity not because they lack opportunity, but because they carry resentment and guilt about money. They believe it's hard to get, that it's the cause of conflict, or that it belongs only to others. But in truth, Money belongs to consciousness, to whoever aligns with its vibration of circulation, joy, and confidence. She used to write that the feeling of plenty must precede the evidence of plenty. You don't wait for the proof, you create the proof through thought and speech. The first 40 seconds after touching money are the most powerful, because they set the tone of your vibration. That's why she told her students to be mindful of what they say and feel in that instant. When you pay, do it with joy. When you receive, do it with appreciation. When you see others prosper, celebrate them. These acts send a signal to the universe that you are ready for the same flow. Florence said that envy blocks the current, but gratitude accelerates it. She used the phrase divine substance to describe money, meaning it was a spiritual material, neutral, ready to take the shape of your thoughts. So, if you think of it as scarce, it hides. If you think of it as abundant, it appears. It's that simple. She wanted people to stop treating money as an enemy and start treating it as a friend, because only then could they attract it naturally. Florence's teachings revolved around faith, words, and vibration. She said that faith is the ability to see the invisible and speak it into existence. That's what affirmations do, they make the unseen visible through consistent belief. She encouraged people to repeat phrases like, I am rich in mind and body, wealth flows to me freely, or I give thanks that my supply is endless. Each repetition builds new mental patterns that align with prosperity. The more you say them with emotion, the faster your life reflects them. Florence compared the mind to a phonograph, it records every word and plays it back as experience. So if you constantly say, I'm struggling, your mind reproduces more struggle. But if you say, I am blessed beyond measure, it reproduces blessing. Words are orders to the subconscious, and the subconscious executes without hesitation. She said, the game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. That is why she insisted that even in the smallest actions, like touching money, you speak consciously. Every bill, every coin, every card swipe is an opportunity to affirm abundance. You might think it's silly, but your subconscious doesn't. It listens, absorbs, and manifests. When you say every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied, you are not just speaking to air, you are communicating with the law of increase. Florence explained that this law responds to emotion, not effort. You can work tirelessly and still block abundance if your vibration is low. But one moment of pure gratitude can open doors that hard work never could. She said that supply comes from spirit, not struggle. That's why she urged people to stop worrying about how money would come and instead focus on aligning their consciousness with receiving it. Worry is resistance, faith is flow. When you trust, you create space for miracles. Florence also reminded that giving and receiving are one and the same. When you give, you don't lose, you circulate. The energy always returns. She used to say that generosity done with joy is a magnet for miracles. If you give with fear, you confirm lack. If you give with love, you confirm plenty. Every time you spend, bless it. Say, this money goes out in love and returns multiplied. Feel peace instead of panic. That emotion rewrites your relationship with wealth. She believed that prosperity wasn't about accumulating, it was about circulating. Hoarding comes from fear, and fear blocks flow. The wealthy mindset is generous, trusting, open. When you live that way, money becomes loyal to you, because you treat it as energy, not as possession. Florence's message was timeless, abundance is your divine birthright. You were not born to struggle, you were born to create, to expand, to express. Money is simply one form of that expression. When you love what you do, serve others, and stay aligned with gratitude, the law of prosperity responds automatically. She said that the universe is never withholding, only the mind does that. So let go of your limits. Replace your doubts with affirmations that uplift. Speak life into your finances, just as you would speak healing into your body. Every word matters. Every feeling shapes reality. Every act of gratitude multiplies your blessings. Florence Scovel Shinn reminded us that the invisible always becomes visible, and that your financial world is a reflection of your inner dialogue. So from this moment on, whenever you touch money, pause, breathe, smile, and say with certainty, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. Those are the words that shift vibration, the words that open the flow, the words that turn ordinary moments into gateways for divine abundance. Every time your hands touch money, you are touching your own reflection. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that money is a mirror that reveals your relationship with life itself. If you hold it with fear, it represents limitation. If you hold it with gratitude, it becomes a tool of expansion. She believed that everything you say and feel around money is an order written directly into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious always fulfills the order, whether it leads to wealth or to worry. When you speak about lack, you're planting scarcity. When you speak about increase, you're planting prosperity. She said that the subconscious is like rich soil, it doesn't decide what to grow, it simply multiplies the seeds you drop into it. So the real question is, what are you planting every time you handle money? Most people don't realize that they program scarcity every single day. They sigh when paying bills, they say things like money goes so fast or I never have enough, and they think those words don't matter. But Florence showed that those words are the very reason money escapes them. She used to say, the game of life is played with words. What you speak, you create. The first 40 seconds when you come into contact with money set the tone of your vibration. If you treat it as something small, unwanted, or dirty, it will behave that way in your life. But if you treat it as a symbol of divine flow, it will grow. That's why she told her students to speak to their money, to bless it, to make every transaction an act of spiritual alignment. She said, bless your money, and it will bless you back. The phrase she gave her students to reprogram their minds was this: every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. These are the words that unlock the law of increase. They're simple but powerful, because they combine faith, gratitude, and command, the three forces that move energy into form. Florence taught that money is not material but mental. It is the shadow of your inner belief about supply. If you believe there is lack, the shadow fades. If you believe there is abundance, the shadow expands. She used to remind everyone that the universe is full of circulation, the ocean doesn't run out of waves, the sun doesn't run out of light, and divine supply never runs out of substance. Scarcity is an illusion created by fear. Abundance is the truth revealed by faith. The moment you change your inner dialogue, you invite that truth to manifest. Florence explained that money reacts to the emotional climate you carry. Fear pushes it away, confidence pulls it closer. That's why she taught people to purify their emotions before handling money. She'd say, never handle money in anger or worry. Take a breath, bless it, and then act. Because when you bless something, you connect to it. You raise its vibration and align it with divine harmony. She saw giving and receiving as one continuous breath, inhale and exhale, flow and return. When you spend with joy, you are exhaling abundance. When you receive with gratitude, you are inhaling it. Both are necessary to stay in balance. The mistake most people make is trying to inhale without exhaling, or exhaling with resentment. That breaks the rhythm of prosperity. Florence often compared money to water. When it's allowed to flow, it's clean and abundant. When it's hoarded or feared, it stagnates. So she encouraged people to give freely, but consciously, with love. She said, what you give with joy returns to you multiplied. That's why every act of generosity, every time you share or donate or pay with gratitude, you activate the same law that governs the tides, circulation. Life is always moving, always flowing, always multiplying. She taught that people should practice small rituals of gratitude each time they touch money. For example, when receiving payment, pause for a second and think, thank you for this symbol of divine abundance. When paying a bill, say, I send this money out with love, knowing it returns to me multiplied. When seeing someone succeed financially, say, I rejoice in their success, for the same law works for me. Each phrase rewrites the code of your subconscious. It replaces resistance with trust. Florence said that resistance is the only thing that blocks prosperity, and resistance is always born of fear. To overcome it, you must train your mind to expect good. Expectation, she explained, is faith in action. When you expect abundance, you are magnetizing it. That's why she advised her students to act as if they already had what they desired. If you act poor, you affirm poverty. If you act prosperous, you affirm abundance. She didn't mean to pretend, she meant to align. To her, faith wasn't pretending something was true, it was knowing it was true even before seeing it. That knowing changes vibration, and vibration changes reality. She said, faith never fails to make the demonstration. Demonstration meant manifestation, the visible proof of invisible belief. Florence saw money as a reflection of the invisible. She believed that true wealth begins with peace of mind, clarity, and confidence. Once those are established, money naturally follows. She used to say, do not seek money. Seek consciousness, and money will follow consciousness. When you repeat, every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied, you are not just repeating words. You are activating consciousness. You are replacing worry with certainty, fear with faith, doubt with gratitude. Over time, those vibrations become permanent, and your outer reality adjusts to match them. You will notice unexpected inflows, gifts, opportunities, chances that seem random but are not. That's the law working. Florence called these events divine coincidences, proof that your vibration has shifted. She also taught that when money increases, your responsibility increases too. Prosperity is not just about having more, it's about being more. She urged people to use wealth wisely, to bless others, to uplift, to circulate good. Because when you use abundance in harmony with divine law, you ensure its continuous flow. She said, God's gifts increase when shared. That is the essence of her philosophy. Abundance is a shared current, not a private possession. The more you bless, the more you receive to bless with. Florence believed that every moment of contact with money is a sacred chance to align with the divine flow of life. She wanted people to realize that money is not an enemy, it is an expression of creative power. It allows you to give, to grow, to express freedom. When you treat it with love, you invite more of it. When you handle it with fear, you block it. The choice is always emotional. That's why she simplified it into one simple daily practice: speak the words, "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied." These words are not superstition, they are spiritual science. They shift your frequency, and when your frequency rises, everything else follows. Money begins to flow with ease, ideas arrive effortlessly, peace replaces panic. You stop chasing and start attracting. That is the difference between lack and abundance. Lack fights, abundance allows. Florence wanted you to remember that the energy of wealth is already yours, you simply have to align with it. Every touch, every transaction, every exchange is a reminder that you live in a universe of endless circulation. Bless it, speak truth to it, and it will always return multiplied. Florence Scovel Shinn used to end her lessons reminding her students that money, like all forms of energy, obeys the heart more than the hand. You cannot control it by force, but you can guide it by faith. She said that those who chase money with fear are like people trying to catch the wind, while those who stand still in gratitude allow the breeze of prosperity to find them naturally. She wanted people to understand that money was never the goal, it was a consequence, the reflection of harmony between thought, word, and emotion. The moment you stop begging the universe and start trusting it, the flow changes. It's not magic, it's law. The law of cause and effect, the law of vibration, the law of belief, all of them respond perfectly to your inner tone. So, from this moment on, every time you see, touch, or even think about money, do not let old patterns of fear return. Instead, smile slightly and repeat, "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied." That phrase is not a spell, it is a declaration of alignment. You are no longer saying, "I want," you are saying, "I am." Florence said that when the mind moves from wanting to knowing, the demonstration begins. The energy starts rearranging itself around your new state of being. Doors open quietly, solutions appear effortlessly, and life begins to feel lighter. You stop worrying about when and how, because you realize that supply is already circulating, waiting only for your acceptance. This is the secret she wanted the world to know: abundance is not outside of you, it is you. When you bless money, you bless yourself. When you affirm prosperity, you awaken the part of your mind that has always been rich in ideas, in confidence, in faith. That richness then takes form as opportunities, as stability, as freedom. Florence's students often reported sudden financial miracles, debts cleared, unexpected gifts, new work opportunities. But she always reminded them not to focus on the money itself. She said, "Look to God for supply, not to man. Man is the channel, not the source." In other words, never cling to one way of receiving. Let the universe choose the form. Your only task is to keep the channel open, through gratitude, through right words, through faith. She believed that the most powerful prayer for abundance was also the simplest: thank you. Those two words, when spoken sincerely, can dissolve years of resistance. Gratitude transforms fear into trust. It tells the universe that you are ready to receive. It creates an atmosphere where increase becomes natural. Florence explained that you can test this law at any time. Bless what you have now, no matter how small, and watch it expand. Bless the flow of money to others and watch it return through new paths. Bless your work, bless your wallet, bless your future, and you will see proof that the law of multiplication is real. She said, "You cannot bless and withhold at the same time. The moment you bless, you release. That release allows life to move again." So many people block prosperity by holding tight to fears, to possessions, to control. But when you release, you receive. When you let go of the old vibration of worry, the new vibration of wealth replaces it. Florence wanted people to live lightly, to trust deeply, to give joyfully. She taught that prosperity was not about accumulation, but about circulation. Money is meant to move, to create, to serve. It was never meant to be worshipped or feared. When you understand that, you finally find peace with it. That peace is the real wealth she spoke of, the calm knowing that you are provided for, always. Before you close your eyes tonight, hold a thought of gratitude for all that already flows in your life. Whisper once more, "Every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied." Let those words sink deep into your subconscious, where they will continue working even while you sleep. Florence believed that the night is when the seeds of faith take root. As you rest, your subconscious arranges the next wave of opportunities, the next flow of increase, the next proof that what you believe is already becoming. And when you wake up, act from that vibration. Move with confidence, speak with kindness, give with joy, receive with humility. You are no longer chasing prosperity, you are living it. Every choice, every word, every gesture becomes part of the rhythm of circulation. That's when abundance stops being something you seek and becomes something you breathe. Florence Scovel Shinn left behind a legacy that goes beyond wealth. It's a reminder that the universe is alive, intelligent, responsive, and generous. It does not measure worth by numbers, but by vibration. And your vibration rises every time you bless, every time you give thanks, every time you affirm truth. So, if you ever feel doubt creeping in again, place your hand over your heart, smile, and remember, you are one with infinite supply. Say it with quiet certainty: every time I touch money, it multiplies, it blesses my life, and returns to me multiplied. And it will. Because the law always answers, the energy always returns, and the blessing you send out will always find its way back to you.